start the recording. So we're ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, well, I will get us started with the land acknowledgement. Hi, everyone. I'm Erlene from the BC Hub Steering Committee, and it's so nice to see all of you here today. So I would like to start by saying that we, the members of the Seniors for Climate, are grateful to live, work, and be in relation with people from across many traditional and unceded territories, covering all regions of British Columbia. We are honored to live on this land and are committed to reconciliation, decolonization, and building relationships in our communities. Let's all take a moment to think through these thoughts and bring these thoughts into our hearts as we continue our climate action work today. So thanks for that. And I would just like to talk a little bit about the National Seniors for Climate before we jump into the committee work. Many of you were at the organizer meeting yesterday, and so we have been sort of alerted to the fact that June, the first week of June, is what we're hoping to have as a national Seniors for Climate meeting across the country. And it's up to us as to how we do that and what we do, but for our events and whether we want to do Earth Day events and things like that. But one of the theme that's emerging for that is addressing the silence, the climate silence. And so there'll be more information about that coming up soon. There are a couple of webinars as well coming up. One that you'll be interested in is on April the 8th with Bill McKibben from Third Act in the US. And our own Stefan Guibault is also on track to have a date for a webinar. So just keep noticing when Lori and others send out information. And I think we'll have a lot of learning and exciting events coming up in the future. So now I'm going to turn this over to Lori, who will tell us about today's work.
Oh, thank you so much. We met last time in December to talk about committees, and people were very enthusiastic and have signed up for a number of our committees. There are 7 now. The instructions last time were to introduce each other, find a note taker, think about how people can get together, choosing a facilitator if possible, and setting up a first meeting. Some of us were able to do that. Others found that the holidays kind of got in the way of having a meeting, but it seems like people are pretty eager to get going on mobilizing now. So later, after I give this introduction, we're going to be having breakout rooms again for the committees for people who are new to join a committee and for people who had chosen a committee in December to go back and touch base with the people in that group and talk about how they can, focus. There are 5 committees that clearly have sufficient people and they have a direction to proceed. That's the education, advocacy, communications, outreach, and resource management. There are 2 other committees, local support and event planning, and they only have limited numbers. And we sense there are questions about the focus, what they should be doing. So we'd like to ask these 2 committees when we open up the breakout room to consider in their meeting, what do you think the committee might do? And do you think that it should be a standalone committee, or might it be better as a subcommittee in one of the other larger groups? And then to think about what group it might be better aligned with. So it's something that, to consider in the breakout room. Yes, Mary, you wanted to say something. Oh, you're muted, Mary.
Sorry, excuse
That's
me.
okay.
Could you repeat the committees? I didn't, you went too quickly for me to be able to.
Sure. What I'm going to do right now, I just wanted to give an overview, but what I'm going to do right now, if I can figure out how to get back into the Zoom, I'm going to share the list of the committees so you can take a look at them. So can you see my computer?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's the Education Committee,
Mm-hmm.
these are some of the ideas that we thought about for that. Um, and sort of put the local support into there. But the education committee is pretty, they have a lot of ideas already. The advocacy is meeting with elected leaders, attending government meetings, developing relationships with elected. These are just ideas that we sort of put together to give a bit of a focus. Communications, like it might have subcommittees that might be email creation, sending out emails, website development and management, writing letters, op-eds, articles, media advisories, and media releases, and social media posts. There was a graphics, art, and music committee, but only one person signed up, and so she said she'd move into the comms. And that's, somebody with people who have the ability to do graphics and videos and things like that to help us all expand and amplify what we're doing. And, there's probably going to be crossover with the committees because some things cross over. Resource management would be like organizing the Google Drive and PDFs and photos, all the resources so that everyone in the in Seniors for Climate BC is able to go in and find a poster or find a document or find a letter that they may want to share with their MP. And if we have an event, they'd set up a toolkit that people can access. Um, Creating files and organizing all the data. And then outreach is reaching out to different people in the community, to all around BC, because we have some people in one small community to help them to get more people in their community connected and active. Um, and then event planning, like I said, it might move into the communications. And event planning is if we have an event, helping the different communities to set up an event. What do they need for insurance or security or promotion? Jeff, you have a question?
Yes. The last time when we broke into the groups in advance of breaking out, I made the suggestion that it might not be a bad idea that we have some agreed common causes around which we're going to either advocate, educate, outreach, communicate. That didn't happen. And I know what happened. I can't even remember the group that I joined, but we were in the group so briefly that we barely got any discussion or past the point of introductions, and all of a sudden the group folded up. We came back in, and at no point was there ever a report back from the various groups. And I still think that's a substantive lacking, and that may be part of the problem where things didn't come together because surely we don't want the education group coming up with a particular, going in a particular direction that's different than the advocacy group and different from the communications, different the outreach. So in the absence of some common overarching common goals that we have, I'm not sure how effective a committee can be. Simply say, well, you can get together and talk about means of communication, but unless you know the subject matter about around which you're planning to communicate, you're at a bit of a loss. And similarly for every other one of the committees. And I think I think we put the cart before the horse.
Um, I can see that that would be confusing as we don't really know what focus the communications committee would be working on. I think probably the concept was that the people interested in communicating, doing that kind of work would get together and see what kind of things could they organize about to help the Seniors for Climate BC work on communication issues. And then the education people would be putting together educational materials, and there may be crossover. And if the groups get together and have a discussion about what they might be able to do, then they can come back and say what they need from the group or how their group would work with the other groups. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
So let me jump in and also say something that might be helpful, Jeff, because I think you're raising a really interesting point. Because we're kind of a we're right at a kind of a pivot point here. Do we have a big overarching message that we're all working on? And I think the answer is, well, yes, Seniors for Climate. But one of the other things that is happening now in the background is more attention to a specific focus that's being recommended by the National Seniors for Climate. And so I was going to spend a little bit of time at the end of the meeting and talk about two big projects. I'm going to do it very briefly because we have brief meetings, but talk about those two projects just to give people an awareness that there is that kind of big overarching thing that's coming along. And maybe it would have been better to do that earlier in the meeting. And we could think about revising the structure of the meeting, or we could say, well, let's do that at the next meeting. Because we were planning on the next meeting going into detail on these two larger campaigns that the national office is suggesting. How would that be if, because it might still feel like, well, if we put people in committees now, we're not helping them kind of gel. That's what we're hoping, that people will kind of find a context in which things gel a little bit more for them. And I'm not clear about what's the absolute right direction to go, but I would be inclined, I think, to go ahead with what we were going to do, put people in groups, make sure that there's some kind of stabilizing that's going on in the group, and then next time we go into more detail with these. So what do you think?
I think that's exactly the same problem that we had last time. Again, you're putting the cart before the horse. You would have a bunch of small group discussions around disparate subject matters and only at the end say, well, by the way, there's this overarching thing that we can coalesce around. And it's a backwards approach in my view.
Well, and it may well be. So I think our opportunities are one of two things. One, I go ahead and talk about those two campaigns, and I can do that. Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up there, but I'm going to do it very briefly because honestly, I didn't prepare for an in-depth discussion of them today, but that may help you to give you a bigger picture on what's going on in the background. Okay, then
So
let me.
Carol, we've
Yeah.
got a few people with their hands up. We have
Sure.
Satya.
Yes, Satya and Avril. Satya, go ahead. You're muted. You're muted. And thanks everybody for flexibility
Okay.
and
I
helping
had
us.
two notifications for this meeting, one for 3 o'clock and one for 3:30. So unfortunately, I hit the 3:30 one. Another
That's the
thing
right
is that
one.
I am in the middle of a project, and I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but I want a few minutes because it's an immediate project that I'm working on and could be of interest.
Let's do that.
Satya,
Give me 5 minutes, 3 minutes.
you're asking for 3 minutes of the whole group's time to talk about your
The whole
project.
group, definitely the whole group.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Perhaps we could do that at the end because our
That's-
focus today is the communication, or sorry, the committees and discussing what our focus will be and how we can be more effective. Let's work on that today. And then Satya, you can share your idea at the end. Would that be okay?
That's fine, just so I get a chance.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just would say that it really would be good if people want that to let us know ahead so that we can put it in the agenda. And that's in no way chastising you, Satya. Please don't
Yeah, I
take it.
know.
But
I've
Just to
Just
help everybody know as we go into the future. If you let us know, then we can put an agenda together that includes that.
I just finished a terrible flu.
I'm sorry?
I just had a terrible flu from an airplane ride from
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
Florida. So
that.
today's my first day alive.
Yeah. Avril, go ahead.
Thank you, Carol. Just a quick question, perhaps comment. I'm wondering how many people on this particular call were on yesterday's call, and so therefore already know much about the campaigns as described. Because I look over the list, and I know that several people were, but
Yes,
maybe
about a
not, maybe not enough, and that if as I think you should proceed as you suggest, but that obviously there can be more discussion if one or two people within the smaller group happen to have been on yesterday's call and can expand on the campaigns.
yes. Well, in going ahead, what I would actually be doing is just probably maybe not even with as much detail as those of you that were at the meeting yesterday would have heard, but just to give everybody a kind of a baseline that says, here's a couple of things that are coming down the pike, and you knowing about them will help you to see we might actually have before us a pretty big picture process that we can engage all of the committees around a common theme. Thanks, Jeff. I see you're liking that. Ken, go ahead. You're muted, Ken. I can't hear you. So you're still muted, although it doesn't say that you're muted. We can't hear you. Am I right? The rest of you can't hear him either? Okay. I think you're on now. Go ahead, Ken.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but speak up.
Okay. I'm new to the group. First time I've been involved. Although 30 years ago I worked with Maud Barlow on the National Committee for the Council of Canadians.
Yep.
And was deeply involved with them, with the group at that time. My question today is, you seem to be very well organized with the committees, and that's commendable. What I'm wondering about is, what is the overarching goal that was mentioned? And is there something that's practical and can be aimed at so that people know what we're working on, and that a wider range of people could pick up on and adopt, getting concrete results?
So the
Is part of the committee working on that kind of a goal? Is that
the overarching goal is to get as many seniors as possible actively engaged in climate action and advocating with particularly our federal MPs, but not only, with provincial and municipal people as well, climate policy that moves us on a trajectory towards a safer climate future for all of us, particularly younger generations. So that's the big overarching one. And Ken, we don't quite have the time to go into a lot of detail with this right now. But what we're doing primarily today is trying to make sure that the committees that have formed have an opportunity to go a little bit further, get a little bit more stabilized and cohesive, so that people feel like they have a sense of belonging to something that is actually a part of this bigger process. Does that help? Okay, thanks. Diane, is this quick?
Super quick.
Great.
Just follow up from last month. I was asking about the national committees, and apparently they have terms of reference, which I thought were going to be brought back to us. Because we can probably align, if not use, those terms of reference.
Arlene, do you know anything about terms of reference from the National Committee?
They are different. The committees are actually different and the terms of reference, but I think that's a good point, and we can continue to try to build cohesion. And that was the only thing that I was going to say is that today, one of the things that, yes, what we want to do is meet in the committees and start to build cohesion among ourselves and then between ourselves and the national work. So maybe when we do meet today in each committee, we could just say, how would what we're working toward on today link to all of the other committee work so that we start to build this cohesion, this circular communicative sort of environment, because yeah, it's like punching a marshmallow. We're all affiliated with so many things, and what we're trying to do is to bring all of our umbrella or all of our affiliations under this umbrella for some work, for the work that we're doing in June, say the first week of June. So I think it will happen. I just think we need to do it.
Yes. Okay, so now let me go through fairly quickly these two projects coming at the national level. So the first one is called Community Resilience and Resistance Campaign. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is a proposal that actually was started by a group whose name is so close to our name that it confuses the heck out of people. They're called Seniors for Climate Action Now. In fact, this group was one of the 6 groups that started the campaign called Seniors for Climate. Please, it's very confusing, but we're capable of kind of parsing this and realizing this is an organization. We are a campaign of 6 national level seniors guided organizations involved with the climate. So this is a proposal from them, but it has now been taken up by the National Seniors for Climate. And that is a recommendation. I think that we can say this is now something that many people in the Seniors for Climate community will be looking at. And it's a proposal in 4 parts. It's based on some assumptions. The assumptions are quickly that the climate crisis is upon us, that the government is not likely to take serious climate action unless there's serious citizen pressure, that the nonpartisan focus on all federal MPs from all parties is the most productive route, and they're choosing the federal without saying that others are not important, but that this campaign is focusing on federal. That communities are vulnerable and need to organize, and that seniors need to organize to protect themselves because there is a differential vulnerability to climate effects on the health of seniors from any other population group except infants. And that we need to learn to exercise our power as seniors and to realize our strengths and our creativity. This is all around the fact that seniors are 25% of the population, that we have a lot of financial resources. They're not evenly distributed, but we are a relatively wealthy segment of the population. We have life experience, we have age-related wisdom, and we vote. And those are all things that give us influence and power. We need to realize that. In addition, now, this is what these assumptions are behind, an effort to build a community of seniors. And there's a step-by-step process of recommending how to build that and the tools that we have. Now, right now, those tools are written from the perspective of SCAN. They need revising into the Seniors for Climate context. They will be ready by our next meeting. Also, where to start is not yet clarified, and that may be something that we need to do within our own context, but there will be some more information about it. Now, those steps to building a community of seniors, what they're saying is focus attention on developing enough people to have a regular gathering at the Member of Parliament's riding office on a regular basis. Monthly is what they're trying for. And use these gatherings to pressure the Member of Parliament to support climate action. And during the month, build communities by going to where seniors already tend to organize, places that provide hospitalities for seniors, lots of seniors organizations, usually in the community. There are several places where you can go or create those opportunities. I know someone who is doing this at her house in Victoria. Share food, share music, share company, and talk about how we look after each other. Create a network of mutual support like a phone tree, or an awareness of who's going to knock on whose door if you're doing it in your neighborhood. Create opportunities to talk together, to learn together, and to act together, and then eventually link with other communities and publicize each other's events. Now, I've collapsed 2 or 3 pages into this relatively short paragraph, but that's what's coming down to us to look at as a overarching theme for one thing that we might do in this coming year. As Arlene has already mentioned, this breaking the silence is another. And so I'm going to now stop sharing this and start sharing the other. I realize, wait a second, let me get to the share button. Whoops. I'm having trouble getting to the share. Oh, there we go. Okay, break through the climate silence. Now, this again, I've taken 4 pages and collapsed them into one. So there's a lot of information that isn't here, but I think I've got the basic stuff. And this is a framework for a pretty major action that is being recommended for all of the Seniors for Climate. Now, mind you, Seniors for Climate National has a pretty strong perspective around we don't tell people what to do, but on the other hand, we do what we can to support people feeling that they have resources, that they have ideas, that they have strategies, that they have campaigns that we can all work on together. And this is the one that is being recommended to start in the early part of the summer. It's called Break Through the Climate Silence. And the purpose is, despite the rising concern, climate conversations are increasingly absent from everyday conversation. So the purpose of the campaign is to break through that silence and start conversations moving. Studies show that there's a consistent pattern that people care deeply about climate change. 80% of the people that are interviewed in a large interview around the world say, I can. In fact, 90% say they care, and 80% say they want their governments to do something about it. But everybody seems to underestimate how much other people care, and so we're afraid to raise the subject, and this silence has consequences. The conversation is how the truth becomes visible and how democracy regains its voice. Silence has become the barrier, so conversation is the intervention. And there are 4 pillars of this climate science, and in each one of them there's a strategy for kind of how they will be, how to go through them. But I'm just going to name the pillars. The first pillar is the silence around the reality of the crisis. Well, first of all, let me say, because I think this is important, climate research from a group in Canada called ReClimate, Yale University, and also the Canadian Climate Institute consistently finds that the single strongest predictor of climate action is whether people talk about it. If you're in a community that talks about it, then the levels of concern and knowledge and so on go up. And if you're in a community that doesn't, they don't. So, pillar number one is the silence around the reality of the crisis. We break through the climate silence by making it easier and socially acceptable to tell the truth about what we're living through. I'll just give you a very quick little example from my own life. I wrote a Christmas letter or a holiday letter recently, and in it I said, I'm breaking the silence. I'm going to talk about the climate. I got more feedback from that letter than any I've ever written, and I think a part of it is that people are hungry for this conversation. Pillar two, the silence created by misinformation and disinformation. So we break through the noise so that Canadians can see clearly what's real and what's holding us back. Pillar three, the silence around opportunity and possibility, and they're particularly talking about renewables. We break through the pessimism by showing that solutions exist, are accelerating, and will benefit Canadians, and that Canada has already committed to act. And pillar four is the silence in politics and leadership. And talking to our members of parliament, we want to insist on clarity, on honesty, on leadership, and on accountability with all members, no matter what party they belong to. So that's a very quick look, but these two campaigns, breaking through the silence, and also it's really a year-long building process of getting people out and going to their office of their member of parliament and keep knocking on the door and keep demanding that accountability. So that's it. I'll stop sharing. I'll turn it back over to Lori. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carol. I think that was a really great focus for us to help us get more clarity about what we can do when we are in committees. Another reason for the committees is because there is a small steering group in Seniors for Climate BC Hub, and we are organizing and strategizing what our power can be, because there are so many of us in BC who care, and we can't do it all. And so the idea for the committees is to include people to take pieces of all of this and connect more people so that we can actually be really having a strong impact in our local councils and our MLAs and absolutely our MPs. And so, yeah, we're hoping that the committees will do that, work together and collaborate to make it so that the emails don't have the wrong information in them, and that resources are able for people to find, and that we're all working in our community on the same ideas and also on things that affect our community, which might be different from another community. So what we're going to do is at this point, hopefully there's a little bit more from Carol, there's a little bit more of an idea about what kind of focus we can have. And we're going to put into the chat the information about the different committees so that you can look at them while you're in a breakout room. We're going to open up the breakout rooms. Oh, wait, we have to hear from Sue about what the Education Committee did, because they were a group that actually did meet. Sue, are you with us?
I'm right here.
That's great. So, Sue, give us just a few minutes, if you could, about how you guys met and how long it met and what you guys accomplished in your short meeting. Thank you.
Sure. And give me a little sign at the 3-minute mark, okay? So when we got put into the breakout rooms, we were a really large group. And I think that made us feel a little bit pressured that we better do something. So I was the one who blinked first. So I became the facilitator for now. And we found somebody to take notes and then somebody who would communicate with the hub. And we made sure that minutes were sent to everybody, even from that brief meeting and then from our next meeting. So the way that we organized our larger meeting just with the education committee was that we did a doodle poll about what would be a good time to meet. I'd never done one before. I was intimidated, but I figured it out. Yay me. And we got a meeting together. We found somebody who had their own Zoom account, and so we were able to use that, which made it easier instead of just having two 30-minute meetings back to back. I think we ran into some of the same problems that the other committees ran into. For example, we wondered, who are we educating? Is it only seniors or is it youth? A lot of us are teachers. We wanted to work with kids, so we talked a lot about that. Um, and then we had a chance, beginning in that first breakout room and then following in our larger meeting, for each person in our meeting, and there were a lot, to talk about how they got involved in this climate issue. And that was partly so we got to know each other, to know each other's gifts, and also because sometimes people are overwhelmed by all the facts, but a personal story really touches somebody's heart. And so when we shared our stories, we thought maybe we could use those stories later. Um, we wanted to know what our mandate was from the hub, and we also, at our next meeting, really want to talk about what do we want to do as an education committee. So we have a lot of questions because it's a huge, it's a huge committee with so many ways that we could go. Um, we also needed to know how we fit with the other committees. What are their roles? What are our roles? Like, for example, we had some really talented people who started to look into how we were going to put our education information online. They really looked into it. And then we realized that that might be the job of another committee. So we didn't have to take that on, but we wasted some time, I think, on that with those really talented people working hard. I think one thing that would help us is that we need a contact person for each committee so that we can, say I could contact the resource committee and we could work together. And that brings me to emails. We really needed to share emails with our whole meeting. Some people don't want to share their email for a really good reason. And because of privacy rules, you have to have written permission to share emails. And so we did that in our committee. Um, but we also had to be aware that there were a few people who were not able to share their email. That's about us. There we go.
That was really great, Sue. Thank you so much. And it's really great to hear the steps that you guys had to go through, and then also the challenges that you faced. And hopefully over time we'll be able to work on all of those and make things a little smoother for the groups to work together. And I'm sure that subcommittees will really help with some of that too. Um, So as Sue was speaking, Natasha was dropping in the information about the different groups, the different committees into the chat. Because what we're going to do is open up the breakout rooms for people to go in and see if they feel comfortable in that group and how they can get together over the next month to have that kind of a relationship building exercise. And because we're all over the province, it is so hard to do it in person. And so in the document that I shared about the list of the committees, there is some ideas of how to use or to connect with the Doodle and Calendly, and also Let Us Meet to help people to connect. So in our breakout rooms, that is going to be the sort of the goal again, is to introduce each other, see if you can find out someone who might want to be a facilitator and a note taker, and see if you can perhaps plan for how you can communicate and get together after this meeting today. And we will be sending out the information that Carol shared later so that people will be able to see what are the bigger ideas that the national group is working on. So we will be sending that out as well as the recording of this meeting.
Possibly be. So for those of you in the background, Natasha is sort of the I don't know, the elbows up for that committee work that we try to reach out to you from.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. I mean, yeah, I think it's all of you that keep me coming back. It's kind of very invigorating to see how much that everybody cares. Really a big inspiration for young people, I think, to see the work that you're all doing.
It's all for you too. It's we all want the world to restore itself and to head in the healthiest direction it can. So are our team leaders still in the committees? Is that what's going on?
I think Carol's on mute, but I can see her speaking.
We're back. The two of us that were together.
We're all back.
Click on the three dots again if you can't get it.
Okay, so what we were going to do is a quick round, but it's hard to do a quick round. It's so exciting. There were 61 people here at one point. Now there's 47. And that's just something that happens when people go into the breakout rooms, because some people don't like breakout rooms. But I just want to say that we can't probably do the round that we had intended because it's just simply too many people. But we're hoping that this has been an experience today where people are feeling like, oh, I'm beginning to feel like I know what this is about and where I can fit into this, and bring something that will support the group that I'm working with, and also feel like this is good for me. It's good for your energy level and your lifestyle and things that help this be something that you want to keep coming back to. So let's just say we're open for three or four minutes here for just feedback on how this was today. Satya, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Okay, this has to do with the seniors all over Canada. I'm a retired physician. I live in a seniors home with 150 seniors, so we have a seniors community of all types. I've been, as I say, been working on climate since 1990. So I've been active here. So I've had a lot of support. They've allowed me to give talks on climate for the groups, officially for the group, the Shannon Oaks group. And so I've had good backup. Now, right now, we spend our lives saying, well, why there's so many smart people in the world and no smart people become politicians, and politicians don't do anything. And those of us who worry about things like the Greens and the NDPs and the leftist liberals and so on, but nobody says it and nobody does anything. At this moment, we're in a very active mode here, which will last another 10 days. Just a little quirk that happened, and then we realized we had a chance for an action. The NDP has a leadership race on right now, and people will just say, well, 6 people, look at the leaders and so on, and what do they all say about the climate and that? And there is, by chance, Avi Lewis, who is the son of Stephen Lewis, for those of us who know who that is, very well respected, is running for leadership. And he's the only politician I've seen with a complete plan, a complete road work of how he would definitely move towards eliminating fossil fuels. So there is a webinar. If you look at Abby Lewis for videos, you find hundreds. But if you specifically look at webinar on climate, part of his campaign right now is a couple of hour programs on specifically what would be happening with climate. So at this point, many of us are joining the NDP with $10 with the purpose of trying to get Abby Lewis as the leader of the NDP. Then we might make some movement.
This okay, Satya, I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to jump in and say, I really understand your passion and your interest. We've come to the end of the time that we have, and I think people understand that what you're, I think they understand what your point is.
That's it.
So I'm going to go ahead and say those of you that have been here with our agreement that will start at a certain time and end at a certain time, please feel free to go. And others that want to remain and have a conversation with each other, I think we can stay for a few minutes to do that. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep, David was on the call and wanted to speak, but he has to leave, so that's too bad.
Yep.
Can I get the copy of what was just said in chat via email?
Yes, you can actually save the chat as well. If you go up to the top of the chat box, there are three little dots. And when you click on the three little dots, it should say save chat. But you can certainly send it out as a document attached to the follow-up email. There's lots of emails coming from us, everybody. So sorry, but it's our only way to connect everybody around the province. Does that work for you, Elizabeth?
Yes, that would be great. I just wanted to get all that information and take it home with me.
Sure.
And as we finish up, thank you so much, Sue. You did a great job of describing what the Education Committee was doing, and I hope that was helpful to other committees, that you could sort of get a little insight into a process that's moved a little further along the trajectory. Rudy?
Thank you, Carol. Whenever I'm in a meeting like this, looking at all these heads, there's always this temptation